Nicholas Orcutt here with the fractured line. Hope everybody is having a good day so far. Um, I actually I was planning on talking about more large stream media corruption. I wanted to get into like Jeff Bezos and all these billionaires that have started buying up these media foundations. Um, and ironically enough, while I was doing research on it, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Riley Gaines, the famous fifth place loser of the college swim tournament. Who threw a temper tantrum that she tied for fifth place with a trans person. And for some reason, if that trans person hadn't been there, she clearly would have won first place because that's how math works. But Riley Gaines has a podcast. And while I was looking up just, different media stories, this came up that she had, during her podcast, it had leaked onto X or Twitter that she was off screen. She was preparing to like shoot a commercial and she was off screen asking what her core beliefs were to her producer because she needed to be reminded what her core beliefs were, which is always a excellent, excellent thing for somebody to be caught on camera saying, what are my core beliefs? I don't remember my core beliefs. It's just phenomenal. And I can say as somebody who has done this, who's sat on camera and who's, had to talk essentially to myself, uh, while I just look at a picture of myself talking half the time, it's difficult. It's uncomfortable. I've never had to question what my core beliefs are, and I've never had to have anybody tell me what my core beliefs are. But just goes back to the fact that there's that MAGA mentality that we are just going to pay people to say what we want them to say, and as long as people are getting rich off of it, who cares about their integrity or what they actually believe in? It completely derailed my entire research because I just started laughing. Um, it seemed absolutely unreal that there would be. It seemed unreal that that would happen, and whoever it was that actually broke that video, 100% deserves a Pulitzer. That is the best journalism and reporting that I have seen in years now. Um, just absolutely derailed everything that I had been planning on talking about today. Um, so we're going to pivot a little bit, and it kind of will go with Riley Gaines. Um, and we'll kind of talk about what we went with what my article today was about. And I talked about how the right are grandstanding that bullying mentality, and they're trying to. It's that alpha male mentality. And when I was talking to my wife about it, and because she proofreads almost everything I do before I send it, it's saved me quite a few times because I will say things and I'll mean it a certain way in my head, and like it'll be how I'm talking. I'll say something the way I'm talking. Like when I did the Graham Plattner article, I was talking about his sexting and his wife finding out about it and everything. And the way I had originally wrote it was I said at least he was sexting a woman, as opposed to Mike Grinder Johnson and Lindsey Graham. And my wife goes, well, you're saying it. And she goes, I know what you're trying to say with it. She goes, but it's coming across really homophobic that way. And so thankfully she was able to actually like write it back. But so I have her go over a lot of things, and she went over my article yesterday. And, she knows how I grew up. She knows my history growing up. She knows a lot of the things that I've struggled with throughout my life. She knows that her husband's not always the most stable human being in the world because of my job now and just how my life's been. But she read it and she goes, I don't think people understand really what privilege is. She goes, a lot of people see privilege and they don't understand the concept. Libra can explain everything I say. Okay. But, I would like to hear Libra explain everything you could say, bud. So I wanted to talk about what privilege was. I think it's lost on a lot of people what it means, what privilege is. I grew up a white kid in the hood. I I always felt like I didn't fit in because I couldn't have braids. I had friends that had braids. I always wanted to have braids. I was told no when I was a kid. No, no white boy. Kids can't have braids. Uh, and so I I I had to see I had to see exactly what it was that these people, I had to see what my privilege was and the things that I could do that they couldn't do. And I was lucky enough in that I was able to do that because a lot of people don't. If you grow up in a small area, you don't get to see the way things are. Hello, Libra.
Beauty. I need some beauty filters. Hold on.
So you said you wanted to explain everything you say.
No, I was trying to say that whatever, for example, I write about, I can explain because some things I write about are controversial,
Mhm.
but they have an explanation.
Uh, As they should. If you're going to write about them, then
Yes,
it
but
should come.
yes. And sorry, I interrupted you.
No, that's okay. By all means, if you have something, I wasn't sure what you were saying with everything you were saying. You can explain. So I was giving you the platform to explain.
Yeah. So, some of the things I write about, I think might could be misunderstood or not understood or are controversial,
So
but
give
I've
us some
thought
examples.
about it. Like, for example, when I point out a problem and I say women do this, right? And someone might say, well, men do that too. And I would be like, yeah, but I'm writing about women this time. I'm not saying men don't do this.
Oh,
I'm just writing
that's
about women.
that's an absolute fair statement. I deal with that quite often where I'll say something that's happening currently in the administration, and they go, "Well, what about Biden?" And I have to explain, "Well, this isn't about Biden. It's a non-thing."
Exactly.
Yes,
So people like to confuse things, and sometimes it's just easier to help them understand that, we're talking about one thing right now, not like 20 things.
absolutely.
And and I've thought about this because I know that a lot of people might criticize what I'm writing, but I can explain it to them.
So now you're saying you write about things that women do, that things like that. What kind of things are you writing about? What would be criticized?
Like, for example, like I said that I can't believe a woman would sexually abuse a child, that, instead of caring for a child, like women came here to care, not to sexually abuse a child. And someone might say, well, w- w- are you being sexist? Like, what about men? Like, why are you like saying women? You know what I mean?
I would say anybody that has a problem with you saying that you can't comprehend why a woman would sexually abuse a child and then qualifying it by saying men sexually abuse children are missing the entire point. Those are the ones that I don't bother even engaging with because they're missing the point.
And a lot of people will want to say that, or some people, but I would explain it to them, and maybe it might help. Maybe it might help them, but I know that some people will be saying this, but it's because they're just adding mud to the things.
Well, I mean, actually, what you're talking about kind of works perfect for where I'm going with everything I was saying today. So, a lot of what I was talking about, I don't know if you got a chance to read the article I put up today. Um,
Not yet.
it's about fragile male egos, essentially, right? Because that's where the majority of the problems I would say in the world come from. It's about white guys who don't feel good about themselves. Um,
Well, I would disagree with that.
oh yeah,
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't feel good about themselves. I wouldn't, single out white men.
So, who's in charge of 90% of the world?
It happens to be that it's white men, but we have to change that. And if we don't change that, it's not the white man, all of white men's fault,
I'm not saying
you
it's all
know?
white men's fault. I'm a white guy. I'm not by no means am I. You know, I'm not saying it's all white guys' fault. What I'm saying is it is the fragile white male ego that causes a significant portion of these problems. It is that inability to feel like you are living up to an expectation that you don't understand.
Well, maybe all men have, and women have this feeling, not just white men.
They do. Again, right? A lot of people will like I've been mad at people, right? Like I've been angry at here. My son has my temper. He can get really angry.
Hmm.
He can get really upset with people. He can't do anything
Hmm.
about it though except kick his feet and scream and get upset, right? He can tell me about it, but he can't do anything about it. If there's a adult that pushes him to the ground, he can't do anything about it, right?
Hmm.
If I get mad because somebody pushes me to the ground, I can do something about it.
Yeah.
I'm 6'1", 240 pounds. I can do something about it. So that's the
Hmm.
difference between that privilege and that responsibility. So everybody can feel like they're getting shorted. Everybody can. There's that fragile ego is true with all people. The problem is the people that are in power that can do something about it are choosing to do the wrong thing about
Yeah, there's a lot of people in power that shouldn't have power. I think it's the whole collective, the system that needs to be changed. The whole collective, actually, it's the mindset.
it.
And it's the mindset, and whatever we feed this mindset, collective mindset, right?
So,
I was
so
actually,
I got to ask
yep,
because
sorry.
I saw in your video what country are you in?
Right now, I'm in Czech Republic.
Okay, very cool. So in America, right? We had an election back in 2024. It was between
Mhm.
an old white pedophile and a very educated, very smart black woman. The majority of people who voted for the old white pedophile did it because they didn't like the black one, not because they liked the old white pedophile. It is
Mhm.
that is how the that is how they are manipulated because of the people that are in power able to do them.
They didn't like the black woman because
Nope.
she was black.
And because she's a woman.
Well, yeah, that's definitely wrong mindset. That's really wrong mindset, and it has to change.
But that's the biggest problem with that fragile white male ego, right? It's the fragile white guys that are in power that don't want to lose power because they already feel inadequate. So the one thing they can hold over everybody is they're the ones that make the rules.
Yes, a lot of people who are in power, this concept of leadership is faulty, in my opinion.
Hmm.
So whoever gets picked, it's the wrong candidate that gets picked most of the times,
Well, I
and
mean,
that's why.
typically the good people don't run for office, right? So people that should have power usually don't seek power, and the people that seek power usually shouldn't have it.
Yes, and maybe it's the way they achieve this office,
Uh,
the way they have to do it. People. Not everybody wants to do that. It's that mindset again.
Absolutely.
I actually, it's so funny. I remember several years ago, maybe with the last election, U.S. presidential election. I was wondering. I was like, I was looking at all the candidates, and I was like, my God, um, President Trump. He didn't run, not this term, but the term before that when Biden got elected. Wait a minute. But I was looking at many candidates and I was like, oh my God, like none of them sound like they really care about people. Like they just don't sound like that. I'm like, isn't there like at least one person who who's gonna, you know, do it the right way, like care for the people and go and find out what these problems are and fix them. Like there must be somebody, there. I'm sure there is,
So,
but the people who were, debating is just I didn't get a feeling that they really cared.
I mean, you're not wrong. Most of us got that feeling in the country as well. It's power versus power, right? The difference is Donald Trump was able to manipulate people to make them think that he was just a regular person, which is far in a way not true.
I actually I like President Trump. I can tell you why.
Please do.
I think he's very creative and innovative. I really appreciate that about
What has he
his
done?
stats.
What has he done that's creative and innovative?
Well, I can tell you it's just a small example. But I've noticed that the way he makes decisions, he's not afraid to fail, and he's
No,
not
he's definitely
afraid
not
to
afraid to fail. He excels at failing.
Well, he's not afraid to adjust, He
No,
doesn't care if he decided on something and then he needs to adjust it or change it. He doesn't care. And to me, that's innovation. He doesn't care what others think. He just like at the moment decides, makes a decision based on, the best that
yeah.
there is available information. And then, but he's not afraid to change it. And I think he's very innovative and creative in that
Can you
and
give
not
me an
old school.
example? Can you give me an example of a time that he's made a decision and that has not been afraid to change it?
Well, I felt that when he was picking his teams, and then he was not. He when he realized like some people had to be replaced or fired, he didn't have a problem with that, and that to me showed that he's creative and
So,
he's not afraid.
have you paid attention to the people that he had put on his team? That he had picked
Yeah,
for his
because
cabinet?
some choices were unconventional. You
Not,
know,
some choices were just completely inappropriate. So let me. So I will admit I know very little of the Czech Republic's. I pulled it up, the Czech Republic's government system, but I could tell you. Let me ask you a question about this. In the
well,
Czech
I'm
Republic,
American. I'm American. I don't know anything about the Czech Republic's
no,
government system.
perfect. So
So we can talk about the US.
even better. That is even better. So what is qualifying about Pete Hegseth, a Fox News host, being the head of the Department of
There
Defense?
you go. There's a great example. So like that's actually an example I would use to argue my point. What if Pete had something that President Trump saw, right? So he was thinking outside of the
He
box
said he looked like he
and
was doing casting, and that's why he picked.
gave gave Pete a chance. Maybe there was something he saw in him he thought would be good for the job. He gave him a chance. It's like
He
a little
picked him
test.
because he openly said he picked him because he looked like he was straight out of central casting.
Well, I'm. Is that what he said?
Hmm.
Well, President Trump likes to say many things, and sometimes, but that's. I'm sure that was not the whole core of his decision.
So
To me, President Trump seems like he makes solid decisions.
I have yet to, but you haven't given me an actual solid decision that he's made.
The thing is, like, we would have to talk for hours, and we would have to pull up data and evidence for us to have
It would take you
like a
hours.
factual
Well, yeah,
debate.
it would
You know
take
what I
hours.
mean?
It would take hours to find a single good decision that he's made. Um,
Well, I would
everything
disagree with
he's
that.
done, everything he's done has been motivated by making himself rich.
So, like what, for example? It sounds like you have all the evidence. It almost like sounds like the data. So, for example, what decision did he make that made him rich and was bad for the country?
How about the how about how about the fact that there was the Binance CEO that was that he pardoned without even knowing who he was, apparently, despite the fact that the guy was his son's best friend, who also controls Trump crypto.
To me, this sounds awesome. I don't know, like soap opera drama arguments, to be honest. I really doubt that was his that's why he decided. That's what I mean. I would rather use some evidence
Whatever,
to debate.
no, except for an actual fact, like I just gave you, what evidence?
Yeah,
How about the
I
fact
don't
that Chelsea and
know
Poly
about that
Market were under
decision. So like,
investigation? Chelsea and Poly Market were under investigation and weren't allowed to operate in the United States, and Trump dropped all of the investigation going into them because his son was actually on the board of both of them.
you see, I've had very different observations of President Trump
That's not an
and his
observation, that's a fact.
decisions. I'm sure
I'm not
there
a
were like 10, 15 other reasons why that decision was made,
no.
and nobody's talking about them. Yeah, see, for me to talk about these things, I would have to know exactly what was the decision, what were the benefits, what were the negatives, what was behind it, and some of these reasons that I hear from you. I'm sorry, what's your name? I'm sorry, we didn't introduce each other. You know my name, it's Libra. How about yours?
I'm Nicholas Orca. I'm the writer for the Fractured Line,
Oh,
the
okay.
the live that
So
you
Nicholas,
the room of.
yeah, from my observations, a lot of people just throw out all these accusations about President Trump, and to be honest with you, it just sounds like a I don't know.
But so here's the thing.
It
No, I'm going to stop
it,
you right
it,
there. No, no,
it
I'm going to stop
sounds
you right
very
there.
emotional and not
No,
fact
I'm going to stop you right there because I've actually
based.
given you facts, and every fact I've given you is you ignored it completely. You've just completely ignored it. All right,
No, I don't ignore it. I just didn't
you
think
do.
it was relevant.
Okay, well, I'm glad that you don't find it relevant. Facts are facts. They don't care about your feelings.
Yeah, so I don't think, we can argue about some of these topics
We can't argue
without.
because you haven't actually argued for something.
uh,
You're telling me how you feel, and you don't accept the facts. So that's not an argument.
I don't
An
think those are
argue
all the facts. I mean, I doubt it. So that's what I mean. I don't.
think
I would
that
have to
that you're saying I
find
doubt it.
out.
No, you're saying I doubt it. That's a feeling.
No,
I know. That's a feeling. The
no,
facts
it's
don't
not a
care about your
feeling.
feeling.
That's what I mean. I would have to find all the facts for you to debate. I already have my own opinion about President Trump,
Clearly,
but for me to debate, I would need to know what was the decision, why was it made, what was the benefit for the country, who benefit, like
here's the thing: is
what
when I'm telling
happened,
you
like.
the facts of what it is, you're not accepting them.
Yeah, that didn't sound like the whole story to me,
I'm
unfortunately. And for me to
and
be able to
that's how you feel.
respond, so look, for me to be able to give you a response, like right now, I cannot respond because I don't know which decision we're talking about. I'm not aware of that decision.
So,
I'm not
Libra,
informed
I'm going to let
enough.
you go because you are talking in circles, and at this point, it's just disrespectful to the people in this actual chat because you don't accept the facts, you don't accept the truth.
Mm.
That was that was painful. I apologize to all of you. I thought that was going to be somebody who wanted actual conversation at some point. I got kind of excited when they said, you know, oh, I can talk about this or I think this. I was hoping they would give me something that was true. Um, but God forbid. Oh, you ever talk to somebody and you just kind of feel gross afterwards, like you need a shower? So before everything got just completely derailed by somebody coming in having no purpose at all of coming in. Um, I was talking about the fact that the right wing media has done an excellent job at manipulating social media, manipulating their news, their anchors. They've done an excellent job at it. And look no further than the last person I just spoke to. It worked as a living, breathing representation and proof of that. Like, holy shit. Um, Nobody can ever say that I'm not a patient person. I don't try. But holy shit. I wow. That was completely derailing. So there was one other thing I wanted to talk about before I let everybody go and finish for the day because again, yeah, mouth breather is right. There was one more thing I wanted to talk about, and it was a report by ProPublica that came out. It just came out today, actually, and it follows up back to what I said about the kids that are going hungry in this country now. And so they've reported that now they're estimating more than 770,000 children are no longer receiving SNAP benefits after the federal cuts that they've made. 770,000. That's over 500,000 children are not receiving SNAP benefits because of cuts. They can say all they want that all these cuts and from the one big beautiful bill was about, making people work and not having a welfare state. They're punishing children. Meanwhile, they're holding UFC fights that are costing the country millions and millions of dollars on the front yard. It makes absolutely no sense. And it's so insulting. So insulting. How do you justify children starving and dying while you hold UFC fights? This is like the Roman fucking Colosseum. Like, I it is bananas, absolutely bananas. And it's just, they just had a news report the other day with the new reflecting pool they put in, which I didn't talk about this in an article because it's like such a small little thing, but that reflecting pool, 15 million. And Trump wanted a certain blue for it, like a special shade of blue. And the blue itself is like a designer blue that's super expensive. He wanted this blue in it and it was 15 million. And he was told that if he does it this way, within a week, there will be algae blooms. And sure enough, there are algae blooms in it and nobody can see the blue. And it looks worse than it ever looked before, which is just absolutely the perfect metaphor for the Trump administration. They're going to demand something unnecessarily expensive. They're going to wrap it in the most expensive material they can, and it's still going to just mold up and look like shit. That is the Trump administration to a T. That is every part of that administration. And I I can't make this up. But seeing that and then seeing that there are 770,000 children without food stamps and food benefits is heartbreaking. That is heartbreaking. We have literally decided that we're going to let kids starve instead. We're going to let kids starve so that we can have trillionaires and so that we can have what UFC fights because Trump likes watching sweaty naked men jumping around. Like this is my dog Snoopy wants to say hi. He's mad that I'm not involving him. Um, but we're starving children now for this sole purpose of what? Letting Trump have his way and have a birthday party? This is insane. And each year his birthday party's gotten more and more expensive. Last year we had the parade. This year was a UFC fight. Hopefully there's not going to be one next year because hopefully he dies and we can, start celebrating that day. Just kind of like we should all be celebrating June 5th, the day that Ronald Reagan went back to hell. But it's just it's disgusting that there are children in this country, in America, a first world country, a country where we are supposed to be the land of the home and land of the free, home of the brave, where everything we have is supposed to be the apex of society. We have children starving. We have children starving. That is just disgusting. Um, so with that, I want to thank all of you today for stopping in. Uh, I would thank the person who decided they wanted to debate me, but I have no words other than it's what happens when you talk to stupid people, I get apparently. Um, but I want to thank all of you for joining me today, and I look forward to the next time. Everybody, have a good rest of the day.